In 1990, Chevy set out to build the ultimate sport truck with their 454 SS, but we feel they missed the mark.
More power, a great suspension, and really good looks.
So stick around for the full build on this 632 SS.
You're watching PowerNation. Hey everybody, welcome to Music City Trucks. Well, today we're taking out our latest project vehicle. This is a 1989 Chevrolet truck. It's a 1500 flavor.
This was somebody's baby. Somebody cared about this truck throughout its whole life, and now we're gonna care for it a little more.
Yeah, we're gonna take it to the next level.
Yes, sir.
We are in the engine power shop. We've got our Chevrolet up on the dyno. Pat and Frankie are gonna help us find out what this truck's gonna make.
All right. Get this thing fired up.
Yeah. Seems to run okay.
Yeah, starts good.
Yep.
We'll see what it makes.
Go for it.
Oh boy.
Good? Ready?
Yeah, we're good.
Here we go.
There you go. Chassis dyno pull.
Yeah.
Awesome. Boy,
Yeah. What did it do?
that is not bad. 184 horsepower
184, all right.
184.
264
About what it
pound
felt
feet.
like yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't know what they make stock, but that's not bad.
bad at
that's
all.
pretty good for, this thing potentially being, 20 years old. Or,
All the guts are still in it, so that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
We can drive it back to our shop.
Hey,
Yeah.
That's a wheel speed of 153 miles per hour.
Yeah.
wow.
Isn't that awesome?
takes a day and a half to get
It didn't
there.
look that fast.
No, definitely did not.
It takes a while to get there.
This is something I think you're really gonna like.
Oh,
I think this is perfect for your guys' project. So this is a Gen 6 Big Block Chevy, 632 cubic inches. Short block's already filled out, so this will be 11.8 1-to-1 static compression ratio. It has a custom ground hydraulic roller comp in it. We have comp evolution lifters ready for it and a bunch of other cool stuff to finish it out.
This is gonna have a little bit more power than a 454 SS truck.
Perfect.
I
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
All right.
Ready?
And I think a little wing nut inside of here.
Yeah.
Okay. Looks good.
We're good.
See if she'll lift up. Oh, yeah. All right, let's get this tailgate off here.
Pop these out.
This way.
Slide it through the keyhole.
Should be pretty easy. Yep. Put face down. There we go. That's gone. All right, you done yet?
Yeah, sometimes they like to fight. I think we're looking pretty good right there, Mike.
All right, let's get those bolts out of bed.
Let's do it. Oh. Hey, Mike, I think we're gonna need some of that deep creep.
All right, got it right here.
All right.
A little bit of penetrating lube. Let's hit all these real quick. Oh yeah, perfect. We're gonna hit some of these bolts with some seafoam deep creep, make it a little bit easier to back them out.
Oh, man.
Here, let me hit that with the big dog.
I think that might be a good idea.
There we go. Oh yeah, just like that. Get this thing back on the ground.
Try not to go through the back window. All right, Mike, you ready to go up?
Yeah, go ahead.
We getting to clear the front?
Yep, all clear. All right, well, let's set her down right there. Perfect. All right, last thing we're gonna do is get this bumper off of here. I don't know if we're gonna reuse it or not. What do you think about a roll pan?
I think roll pans look real good on these trucks.
Yeah,
Cleans up the back real nice.
Definitely, yep. Bingo.
There it is. We pulled off the front fender. We got the core support off the truck, and we also pulled the cab off the frame.
Now that we've got this thing down to a rolling chassis, well, we still need to get it stripped down to the bare frame, because any good project starts with a good foundation. And speaking of this project, let me share some of the ideas for this cool sport truck. When Chevrolet introduced the 454 SS pickup truck, it had high expectations, but the performance was, well, let's say underwhelming. So we're gonna rip out the old tired small block and replace it with a big block. Not a 454, but a power-hungry 632. We'll ditch the factory automatic transmission and slide in a gear-banging stick shift.
On the chassis side of things, we're gonna be shedding the factory leaf spring setup in the rear and the spring setup in the front for upgraded coilover suspension. Out back, we're gonna pull out that old peg leg 10 bolt and add a beefier rear end to handle all that power. That will give us the aggressive stance and handling this sport truck deserves. To assist us in slowing down all these ponies, we're gonna install disc brakes on all 4 corners, then wrap it up with a new set of wheels and tires.
Last but not least, we'll make some subtle body mods and a color change that will be reminiscent to the 454 SS namesake. All right, we gotta get the rest of this chassis ripped down. I'm gonna get the fluids out before we can start making sparks. I think this thing's almost full, so we got plenty of gas to get out of here. Looks like we reached the bottom there.
Get that tank all emptied up, Mike?
Yeah, I think we got all the gas out of there. She's ready to make some sparks.
Let's do it.
Put this neck back on there just in case. There you go.
All right,
She's all yours.
tuck her in.
It's all yours. Hey, she's dry. Oh, there's another one. All right, coming on in. That's far she goes.
Let's see what we got here.
Just like I planned it. There's the trans mount. She's going now. We have separation, there we go. There she goes. All right, we'll just slide it out the front there. Wow, there. All right. Well, that's it for disassembly. Man, this truck has come a long way. Just think, not too long ago, we were running and driving this thing around. Now look at it.
Yeah. So now that we have a bare frame, it's a good opportunity to go ahead and check for stress cracks, make sure everything's straight and true so that the foundation that we're starting with is good to go. We're also gonna take this time to go ahead and mock up the front and rear suspension, so that way, after the truck gets back from powder coat, we're not gonna have to do any drilling, any welding, or any kind of fabrication on it, so we're not messing up any of that pretty new powder coat.
Now for the suspension, we got this Ride Tech kit from Summit Racing. Now, I've got our stock components laid out to give you a good visual on the comparison there. Ride Tech calls these their strong arm system. Not only are they stronger than the factory stamped steel unit, but they're also lighter. And anytime you can reduce the weight of the vehicle, well, it's gonna be quicker and a lot more fun to drive. They also utilize these Delrin bushings that are gonna provide a firmer feel versus the stock rubber bushings. Now moving on, we've got these spindles here. Now these are a 2-inch drop spindle, so that gets that front stance down low like we like it. Then over on the coilover, this is a coilover shock and spring setup. It also provides another level of adjustability from the ride height to this knob on the top that controls the firmness. We can drive it down the road. If it's a little firm, a little soft, well, we can make an adjustment by turning this knob and it changes the feel of that ride. All this stuff can be put on the weekend by anybody. You don't necessarily have to have this thing down to the frame, but because we're down at the frame, let's go ahead and get this bolted on. Now this kit is about 89.3% bolt-on, but there are a couple of modifications. The first one, we have to open up this shock mount to accept this bushing.
And in order to do that, we're going to use a 3/4 inch unibit. I like to wrap a little bit of electrical tape to the depth that I'm going to be drilling, so that way I don't make the hole bigger than I want to.
All right, you got that one done?
Yeah, she's all hollered out.
Perfect. Now our next modification you may or may not have to do depending on your frame. This is our upper shock mount. We're gonna put this down in here. We gotta take this, and the opening, they need to line up. Notice they don't. Yours may be the same way. Now to fix that, we've gotta cut the fingers that locate the spring on the bottom side. And to show you, we're gonna flip it over so you can get a better view. With our frame upside down, now you can get a better view of these fingers that locate that stock spring. And that's what we got to cut out. But apparently we flipped upside down the life of some little mouse or squirrel, so we're going to go ahead and get that cleaned out and cut it out. Hit that button for me, Anthony.
All right, I got it.
All right, your turn.
So I'm going to be using one of these straight die grinders with a cutoff wheel on the end of it. You could use a plasma cutter, you could use a torch, but I think this is going to be the best way to do it. Whenever I'm using any kind of cutoff wheel, I like to have a shield on and not safety glasses because there's a chance that these could explode on you and you don't want to catch one of these in the face. So let's get to cutting. And we're going to finish it up with a grinder and a flap disc. All right, let's see how we're looking. All right, I think we're good. So when you're doing this at home with the tolerances on these frames, yours may be a little different, so it may take a little extra massaging here or there, but you'll have to figure that out when you get into it. So it looks like we're good here. Let's get to the other side so we can get the suspension mocked up.
Well, we got our spring pocket cleaned up and we got the frame flipped back over. Now it's time to address these upper control arm mounts. Now you notice this big slot right here. Well, that is where you get your adjustment for your vehicle's alignment, like caster and camber. But on this particular one of those modifications from the past is showing its ugly head again. What they did is they welded this washer in place to give it the kind of set it and forget it mindset on their adjustment. So we need that adjustment back in here, so we got to cut this washer out so we're back to ground level there. So let's go ahead and get it cut out. Yeah, this one's too slow. Let me see that
This
one.
one a whirl?
Yeah. Off she goes. With those washers off, now we just got to grind her smooth. All right, that's what we're looking for right there. All right, we're gonna finish getting these front pieces mocked up. That way we know our suspension's ready to go.
Let's do it. I'm excited to see these on.
All right. These shock pieces, get this in here. Now I'll use that little bit of leverage to help pop this through and get some threads. So we don't have any threads popping through, so it's hard to catch the threads. So I'm just gonna, like that. There we go, boom. All right, we'll get the last piece, the upper control arms on here. These got some nice ball joints on them too.
Yeah, they really do. They have a lot of travel in them, so, you know, on these lower trucks, sometimes the ball joint angles aren't very happy.
Right.
These help solve that problem.
Perfect. All right. Other than the front sway bar, that completes the front suspension with it mocked up.
Yeah, I think we're looking pretty good. What do you say we head to the back?
Sure.
All right. So now that we got the front suspension all mocked up, it's time to tackle the rear. Now, we're continuing the RideTech suspension system with one of their wishbone setups, but as you can see, our frame's already been modified.
Yeah, you know, sins of modifications past are showing their ugly head again. As you can see, somebody got a little aggressive with a cutoff wheel when they first installed these C-notch kits. Now, ours has a new C-notch, and it may take a little bit of trimming. So first thing we need to do is get these brackets off and see how much work we got to do. Oh, that's a movement. All the bolts in there, she was under pressure. Come on, little buddy. Would you just, there you go. Before that last bolt comes out, how about we put a little support on the back here,
Yeah.
just in case.
I think that's a pretty good idea.
All right.
With our old C-notch removed, it's a good idea to hit the frame with a grinder, clean up any of the burrs from the original holes, and any of the muck that found its way behind the old bracket.
Now, you may have heard us use the term C-notch already, and you might be thinking, what is he talking about? Well, when you lower your truck, there's only so far you can drop the frame before it hits the rear axle, and you have to notch the frame to get it to go even lower. And that's what we got to do here with this RideTech kit. This box section right here replaces the area in your frame to give it that strength. So RideTech gives you this template in the kit that you can line up on your frame rail to give you an accurate place to cut. your frame. The first thing you have to do is align it in the correct spot. And they give you these printed holes on the sheet here that you line up with the pre-existing holes in the frame. Those are factory holes. That way you know you're in the same spot. One way I like to do this is I got a little light here, and we shine it on the back side, and we get our hole lined up directly in the alignment spot so we know, okay, our template is right where we need, and we can go ahead and mark these locations and cut out our frame. We'll start by punching the center for our holes. The reason for these holes is to give us a radius on the transition for our edge when we go to cut the C-notch. Next, we'll transfer our lines to the frame so we know where to cut. Then we can remove the template and start drilling. Start by using a smaller bit for our pilot hole before stepping up to a 1/2-inch drill bit. Now that we got our holes drilled, well, we gotta connect the dots here before we cut it out. I like to use a piece of tape, give us a hard line when we go to draw it out with our paint pen. Right there. And then I'm gonna go across the top, from the top of this hole on each side, like that. And then just that little section's all we gotta trim off on the back side. It won't be too hard. There. Take my paint pen, I'm just gonna use that tape as the hard edge to draw the line. Now we can take our tape off. Wow, there's our cut line. Get that cut out.
So I'm gonna be using a cutoff wheel here to cut these lines out. I like to use a cutoff wheel because I can get real precise with the cut. You just have to be sure that you're using nice, even, light pressure with the wheel. Let the wheel do the work. And once both sides are removed, I'll hit it with a grinder just to knock down the burrs and get it all cleaned up.
Okay.
Looking good?
Yeah, that looks good.
All right, let's crank her down.
Crank that down, get it.
See how we're looking over here?
It's good. All right, so we've got our brackets here installed on the frame. We've got to drill out the holes to mount for the bolts, but RideTech recommends you use the bracket as a guide to drill out the hole. So we've got it clamped down in place, got it positioned where we want. Now we're just gonna center punch these holes and get drilling.
Let's finish this up here, Mike, so we can get that cross member in.
Yep. I got all these tight and keep on mocking it up and see how low this thing will go.
Let's do it. So now that we got our notches installed on the chassis, it's time for us to move forward. And the next step that we got to tackle is getting this cross member installed in the truck.
Yeah, let me see that thing. Yeah. This piece from RideTech, it draws from off these brackets here. It's going to give us a little bit more strength in the back of the truck as well, because all that power we're putting into it, definitely need that.
Oh yeah, this is a real stout piece that's really going to do the trick, and it's also going to give us a spot to mount our wishbone coming off the rear end.
All right, got that tight. Now, RideTech makes these suspension kits for the stock 10-bolt rear axle, or if you've got one of those SS454 trucks with a 14-bolt, well, they make one of those as well. And that's what I actually ordered for our kit, was a 14-bolt. But as projects typically do and change and evolve, well, we decided to go with this Ford 9-inch from Quick Performance. This is also going to be strong enough for our power, but they also integrate these brackets that will bolt right up to our RideTech kit.
Now, with our bracket, being that it was for a 14-bolt, it came with a 3.5-inch tube diameter, where our 9-inch Ford has a 3-inch diameter. So all I did was whip up a couple doubler plates real fast with the correct radius, and that way we can bolt it right up, and it keeps it tight and locked in. So what do you think we get this thing under the truck, Mike?
Yeah, let's get it under here.
Let's do it.
All right, let's see. You should just set it on there. It should be pretty centered. Yeah, pretty good right there.
Oh, yeah.
All right, next piece we've got are the lower shock mounts. They recommend you go into the 2 and 3 hole from the bottom right here. Sometimes you can adjust those. You say you don't like the ride height. Maybe like Anthony, you want to put it all the way on the ground. Well, you can move that down a spot and change your ride height.
Lower the better for me.
Next, we got our lower shock stud. Put a little red thread locker on here. Tighten it down. And we're going ahead and leave this in here, so we're gonna hit it with a torque wrench, about 70 pounds. All right, yeah, go ahead and lower this thing down. We'll get this thing close and get these front bars on here.
Let's do it. All right, now that we got the frame down low, we can go ahead and install our lower link bars. Now you just got to pay attention when installing these. You want to put this R joint towards the back underneath the rear end and the fixed joint up here on the frame. They give you a couple different misalignment spacers you got to use. You just got to pay attention, make sure you're putting the right ones in the right place. For the fronts, you want to put the longer ones in. So we'll go ahead and do that.
So the unique thing about this piece from RideTech, this wishbone, is it not only locates the rear end from the front and back as it wants to rotate, but also side-to-side movement and that triangulation right there.
Try not to act too shocked there, Mike.
Oh man, get these coilovers installed here.
Let's do it.
These things are super nice. Once we get these on, that'll complete our mock-up of this unit. All right, well with that completes the mock-up of the suspension kit. We got a little trimming with a bed when we get it back on here, but other than that, it's a really nice kit.
Yeah, it really went together pretty smoothly. Still got a few more things to do back here. We want to install the tank, maybe stiffen up the back of the chassis. We're also going to add a couple plates to the middle of the chassis here to kind of stiffen it up.
Yeah, I tell you what, let's go check on that engine.
Yeah, let's see what they got over there. See if that thing isn't running yet.
You guys are definitely going to want to see this, so I figured
I'm
we'd come
excited.
get you.
Sounds mean.
Yeah.
Rowdy.
Nothing sounds better than a big block.
All right, so we have running engine, right? How do you think it sounds? How do you think it looks?
I think it's going to be pretty nasty when it's in the truck. So far, I'm very happy. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, it definitely sounds mean. It looks killer. Y'all have done a great
I
job.
surprised you didn't come over earlier because we've been running it, and I know you can
We did hear it.
I know you can hear it.
I was like, we got to go get those guys because we know they're going to want to be here at least for one pull. So
Okay, so this one we crept a little bit of timing in it.
yeah,
and,
yep, we bumped it up to 34 degrees and just leaned it out just a smidgen. This is kind of like our, not a Hail Mary pat pull, but kind of a Hail Mary pull just to kind of see if we can squeeze a little bit more out of it.
I think we get a little bit out of it.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right, here we go.
Do it.
That is mean. Okay, so we have 812 pound-feet
And 806 horsepower.
and 806 horse.
Yeah.
But like Smooth curve.
Yeah, I mean, when people don't understand, look at the torque down low at that low RPM.
3,000 RPM, I mean, we'll go over here, it's making 645 pound-feet.
I mean, it's making over 600 pound-feet everywhere on this graph, but it just has a nice curve that carries all the way through, and it's making, it's making peak torque at 4,500 RPM.
Yeah. This is at operating temp. This is what it makes.
Yeah.
Full accessories, full street trim. So.
This thing should, run and drive like Miss Daisy's Cadillac, but be mean when you stomp the pedal. Yeah.
Play your cards right. We may take you for a ride.
I hope.
Only if we get to drive.
Yeah. Hey. Maybe I want to arrange that.
All right, we're gonna get her shut down. We're gonna go through our normal checks and over to you it goes.
Have it ready.
Sounds good, boys.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome, appreciate
Thanks,
it.
guys. Yeah.
Good job.
Can't wait to see it.
So we are full steam ahead on our 632 SS project. And with over 800 horsepower from that rat engine, well, we need to make sure our frame is strong enough to handle it.
And in order for us to do that, we're going to weld in these boxing plates. Now, GM has utilized this C-channel style of frame, starting with the early C10 trucks all the way up to these OBSs. Now, they got a little wiser in their old age and started boxing the front of these chassis, but as you can see here, the middle's still wide open. So once we get these welded into place, hopefully that'll help us from keeping our chassis from twisted coming off the line. But in order to do that, we got to address a couple things here on the frame first. So first off, we got to get this all cleaned up in here, get it ready to be coated with some kind of encapsulator or some kind of coating that's going to keep it from rusting on the inside. And then the only other thing we got to do is cut this radius out to get this plate to slide up here nice and flush so we can get a good weld on it. So let's go ahead and grab the wire wheel and get to it.
Now, once we get those boxing plates on here, we're not gonna have access to the inside of that frame rail. So to protect it, we're gonna apply this POR 15 rust preventative on the inside of this frame rail to keep it coated and last a long time. Now, it's a multi-step process. The first thing you wanna do is hit it with this cleaner degreaser. Now, Anthony already took the wire wheel and knocked off the surface rust there, so we're ready to get this thing cleaned and prepped and painted. Cleaner degreaser mixes at a 4-to-1 ratio with hot water. So we're gonna add some water here. And a little bit more. Perfect, right there. All right, we got our mixed up. Now let's get it cleaned up. Now POR's directions for this metal prep, they want you to keep the surface wet for 10 minutes. So we're gonna keep on applying this stuff for 10 minutes and then we'll rinse it off and move on to the next step. On the show, they call me Mike, but right now it's Michelangelo. Once the cleaner is done, we'll hit it with some water just to rinse it off. Next step is our metal prep. It's a metal etching rust neutralizer. Well, this stuff, it's gonna prepare the surface for best adhesion of the POR 15 rust preventive coating we're about to put on. With the metal prep, same thing, they wanna keep the surface wet for 10 minutes. All right, we got our metal prep finished, and we know it's working correctly because this white finish, how it's changed colors, that's normal. We know that etching process is working. Now we're gonna hit it with some paint. All right, gonna stir this thing up. Now, POR doesn't recommend shaking, so they prefer stirring. I use my best stirrer for the job. Perfect. Because we're gonna be welding on this area right here, I just put some tape down because we don't want the paint right there. We're gonna put a minimum of 2 coats on this so you don't have to put it on really thick the first time. Get a little coverage and go back and do another coat. Temperature rating on this stuff is pretty good, so when we send this to powder coat and they bake that finish on, I don't think there's gonna be a problem there.
All right, so now that we have our frame all coated on the inside, we can go ahead and start boxing it. Now we got our plates here from obschevyRacing.com. They're laser cut, they fit real well, and saved us a lot of time. Now the only thing we had to do with them was squirt some paint on the backside and put a nice bevel on here for a full penetration weld. Now there's nothing left to it but to get it tacked up and get it welded on, so let's do it. So we got our boxing plates all welded in, but we still have a couple more things to tackle in the rear.
Yeah, we decided to relocate our fuel tank to the back of the truck to give us a little bit better balance for the vehicle. So we reached out to our friends at Tanks Inc. and they sent us this 18-gallon rear mount fuel tank for the back of the vehicle here. Now, as you can see, we've got a cross member in the way, so we need to get rid of that and give us some real estate.
But when we take this cross member out, we're not gonna have much structural rigidity in the back here. So I whipped out this quick tubular cross member, and we're gonna go ahead and get this tacked in. And after that's done, we'll go ahead and knock these rivets out and get this frame cleaned up back here. Before we tack this into place, we want to go ahead and hit it with a grinder, get it cleaned up and ready for a weld.
All right, well, I tell you what, you're definitely the better welder of the two of
I
us.
appreciate that, sir. I've been using that squirt gun for quite a long time, so got some practice in.
All right, well, like we said before, we got to put that fuel tank in this general area, but we got something in the way, so we got to get this brace out. Well, now that we're strong enough, let's pop this out. I'm going to show you a couple of tricks to get all these rivets out. We got like 21 rivets on here to bust out and get these brackets off of here. To get these rivets off, I'm going to use the cutoff wheel to cut a cross pattern in the top. Then we'll use an air chisel to knock the top off. Oh, yeah. There we go. There she goes. Yeah. There she goes.
So now that we got our brackets and our cross member removed from the rear of the chassis, we can go ahead and start getting our tank mounted up. I already whipped up a couple of these brackets here. All I did was take a tab, weld a couple gussets on the end, and that way we can go ahead and get this thing tacked into place on our frame, pop a couple holes in it, and we'll be good to go. All right, so now that we have our brackets tacked into place, I'm gonna use a transfer punch to mark the hole locations. I'm gonna take the tank out, I'm gonna drill those out, and then we'll be good to go. Let's see if we can slide this thing out of here. All right, let's get this tank in there, see what we're looking like. All right, that all looks pretty good. Now, the only thing we have left to do is I'm possibly gonna be tapping these brackets to make installation of the tank from underneath a little bit easier. But other than that, all I gotta do is get these brackets burned in, and then we'll be good to go.
All right, well, it's time to mount up the transmission to our engine. And for the transmission, we're going with a manual from American Powertrain. They sent us this Tremec Magnum 6-speed transmission and everything else we need to make this install complete. From the bell housing to the throwout bearing to the clutch. This clutch setup, I mean, this thing is a trick. We've got the flywheel here, and this is a twin disc clutch setup with a pressure plate as well. You've got 2 clutch discs, a floater. All this clutch setup will handle 1,100 foot-pounds of torque, and that's more than enough for our application here. So let's go ahead and get it installed. First thing is the pilot bearing. Now the pilot bearing, it lives in the back of the crankshaft here. All right, its job is to support the front of the input shaft. Now this thing, it's a very tight fit, so I had this sitting in the freezer for a little bit, kind of make it a little bit smaller, give us a little bit easier time to install it. You just want to make sure that that's flush with that crank surface. All right, next thing we've got to install is the front part of our bell housing or scatter shield. This is a safety bell housing. So in case of an event of a clutch explosion, it's all contained inside the bell housing. So we'll get this up here. It just rides on the dowel pins right there. That seals that off. Next, we need our flywheel. And we'll set that up there. Gotta hold it just right. There we go. All right, we'll get our bolts in here. You always want to put new flywheel bolts anytime you have this on and off. These things see a lot of stress, so it's a good investment. Go ahead and put some new bolts on. We'll throw a dab of thread locker on here and get them all started. Once we get them started, we'll run them down, and then I'll torque them to 40 pounds on one pass, and then we'll finish it off with 60 pounds in a star pattern, okay? Make sure it's seated nice and flush with the back of the crankshaft. Now we're ready to get our first clutch disc on here, but I'm gonna take these bolts. I have put these nuts on here to hold all these washers. They had these spacers on here to get the air gap, all the clutch pack clearances set when they shipped it to us. And we thank them for that, so we want to leave those in the right spot. Get that off of there. Our clutch disc first, and this is our clutch alignment tool right here. Now this simulates the front of the input shaft here. It looks just like that, right? So we'll use this to go into the splines here. It should fit. There it goes. And then this will ride in the back of that pilot bearing there. So we'll get that in there like that. And that's centered. So that's our first disc. You want to make sure these are right direction, all right? Because you could have this backwards. This is flywheel side, FW, flywheel side. Here's our flywheel. Clearance for the bolts. Okay. Now we'll take our floater. Okay. Look at our marks right here. They made for us is where they balanced it. So we'll get that to line up. All right. Then we'll take our 3 little nuts, install them on here. Got those tight. It still moves, so that's good right there. We'll go ahead and torque those little nuts, 25 foot-pounds. All right. Now I'm gonna take off the nuts for the pressure plate. So we'll grab our outer disc. Now we need our pressure plate. All right, get our pressure plate here. Get our washers all the way around. And we got all our nuts started because we got to be very particular on how we tighten this down. All right, so when we run this down, we're going to run it down in a star pattern, but we also have to maintain our discs are in the center of the crankshaft, center line here, because if you tighten it up and it's offside, well, the input shaft's never going to slide in. So we're going to use our little installation tool to kind of hold our center, our happy spot, left to right, up and down. And then we'll take our little impact and start to run these down until they touch in a star pattern, and we'll go back and torque them. You can see how it tries to draw it down. All right, now that still slides smoothly. That's the little check right there. If it slides smoothly, well, you know you're in a really good spot right there. Take our torque wrench. I'm gonna set this at 40 foot-pounds on these outer nuts here. Same thing, we'll torque them in a star pattern. So now, make sure it slides smoothly, just like that. Now, that should be lined up perfectly in the center, so when we get that transmission in, it'll slide right in. Next step, get the bell housing back on, and we gotta check the depth for our throwout bearing. All right, last thing we need to do is measure for our throwout bearing. Now, that throwout bearing has some shim to adjust to get the right air gap between the fingers of the pressure plate. The way we're gonna do this, take our straight edge here, and then get our calipers, extend down in here, and get our depth, go to the tip of the pressure plate fingers there. Okay. Then we're gonna take this measurement, 3.195. Then jump over here to the throwout bearing itself. Okay, same idea. 0.039. 156 is our number. Our target is 200 to 100 or 100 to 200. 100,000's window there. We're right in the middle, so we're good to go. Let's get this transmission bolted up now. All right. Now, if you did need to make adjustments to your throwout bearing spacing, these are the shims right here. Go down a little bit. There you go. All right, that's all of them. You know, once it got over those dowel pins there, it just got started, it slid right in place. Put those bolts in, tighten them up, and it's good, ready to go.
It's happy now.
Let's get it in the truck.
Let's do it. I'm excited to be banging some gears, huh?
I hear you. All right, we'll get this thing lowered down in here between the rails. Got the back.
You're looking good back here.
Okay. A little bit
All
more.
right, yeah, come on down. A little more.
Pretty close there. All right, get a bolt in here. Get this side. All right, well, that's got the engine mounts in place, but the transmission mount, well, we got to come up with something there. And there's a few measurements we need to take before we fab up our own deal between that tail housing of the transmission and the pinion of the rear end.
Yeah, and so what we're going to end up doing is making our own cross member, or we could do what OBS Chevy Racing recommends and use the factory cross member with a couple pieces of angle iron here. But we're kind of undecided at this point, so what do you say we go check out, see what kind of metal we got laying around?
Yeah, you get the metal, I'm gonna grab that third member.
All right, let's do it.
Before we get our third member in here, we gotta get our studs pressed in. Take a little copper slip. All right, slide it in place. Take my stack of washers here. And this is where it gets loud. One down and the rest of them to go.
Now for our differential, we called up Quick Performance and they sent us over one of these nodular case third members. Now we opted to get ours with a 1350 billet yoke, Detroit True Track with 35 spline to match our axles, and a 325 gear set to help with all the low end torque that Big Block makes. Now all we gotta do is get this thing installed and get our pinion angle set and get this on.
All right, let's send that thing in here. Now, obviously, we try to do things the most difficult way possible, so.
Yes, we do.
I think we could work it down with some nuts now. That way we can get some even pressure all the way around it. Oh, yeah. All right, hit that with torque wrench and she's good to go. With our pinion angle set on the rear end, we need to move up to the transmission. Now, when we put these boxing plates on the frame rails, well, that eliminated the possibility of using that stock cross member in the stock location. The main thing what we need to do here is make sure our transmission, the driveline angle, and the pinion angle are lined up. We're gonna use our little angle finder on the back of the tail shaft to get that measurement. So if I had to exaggerate that, if the tail shaft is coming down like this, well, we want the pinion doing that same direction there. So we decided to come up with a little bit different cross member design.
And the cross member I decided to go with was a piece of DOM tube and a couple plates welded on the end. Now you could have utilized the factory cross member, but it was sheet metal and this is gonna be much more rigid and should be able to handle this Big Block a little bit better.
Yeah, it looks really good. Look at that set up here.
Let's see if we can't get it in here.
Right there, that looks good. All right, let's get that bracket in there.
Let's do it, got it right here. So here's our bracket. All we did was use a piece of 2x3 rectangular tubing, popped a couple holes in it, notched it, put a little prettiness on that end, and in she goes.
All right, that's tight.
Good and tight.
Let's check how square it is.
All right, let me grab a tape here, see where we're at. All right, I'm about 31 1/16.
Okay, let's try it over here. Yep, same, 31/16. That's good and square.
All right. All right, well, I mean, the next thing to do is grab the welder, get this tacked in. You can go ahead and grab a transfer punch. We'll get a couple Holes punched, get it ready to drill, and we'll
Get it tacked in and drilled out there.
Let's do it.
All right, I just got to get those drilled out.
Yeah, we'll get this thing out of here, get it on the table, and burn it in.
Sounds good. Go.
Thank you, sir. All right, so we got our cross member all welded up. It fits really good. The only thing we got to do is put a few bolts in it, and we're going to be good to go.
All right, come on down with that.
All right, coming down.
We'll get this thing down close to these body mounts here, see how far we can go.
Yeah, you think it's going to clear the firewall with that Big Block Chevy that's sitting in there now?
Yeah, I mean, these things came with a big block from the factory, but the valve covers were a little bit different. So that's the big thing to me. It might give us a little clearance problem, these tall valve covers, but the block itself, the heads, should clear the firewall.
Yep.
Well, we were hard at work on our 632 SS project, and today we're going to focus on the exhaust system. But before we can make those custom set of headers, well, we need to see what kind of real estate we got between the cab and the frame rail.
And first things first, what we got to do is, since this truck originally came with an automatic transmission, we have to figure out our shifter location and get a hole cut so we can be banging gears on this 6-speed. And then we're going to move to the back, and we got to clearance some of the cross sills on the bed to fit with our new Ride-Tech suspension, and also mark and figure out the location for our filler neck on our new fuel tank.
Let's get that marked and cut out.
Let's do it.
All right, roll under here and mark this shifter. Yeah, shove my head in the cross member first. Yeah, that's nice and comfortable. All right, right about here. Let's see. Whoop. There, backside. There, and around the front. Slide around the other side. Yeah, that general location, that'll work. Get out of here and get it cut out.
You ready to go up, Mike?
Yeah, go ahead, send it up.
All right, let's do it. How high you want this thing?
That looks good.
All right.
All right. Climb up in here again. Cover up the trans, keep all the metal shavings out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll work. All right, here we go. Here we go. We'll connect the dots from the top.
All right, so now that Mike's got these holes cut, what I'm gonna do is just make some lines here so I have something to cut to, hit it with a cutoff wheel. I wanted to use a jigsaw, but ours ended up in the trash, so I'm gonna use a cutoff wheel today and we'll get this all cut out. All right, good enough. All right, we'll clean that up with a grinder and a file, and then we should be ready to drop this cab down on the frame. All right, should be good to go.
All right, with that hole in there, it's time for the moment of truth.
All right, let's see how I did.
Come down.
All right, I think that's pretty good. Fits like a glove.
Let's check it out there. Oh man, it's like it was made for it. It's perfect.
Not too shabby. Well, that's another thing checked off the list.
Yep. Get everything done.
Yep. Try not to batter ram the back of the cab.
All right, here we go. All right, so our suspension system runs into the bottom of the bed, the cross seals. So I'm just gonna go in here and mark where it's at, along with the fuel tank and the bottom of the bed are spots, so where we need to trim it back. Yeah, we'll mark right there. Then on our fuel tank up here, give us a little bit more room. About that area. Perfect. All right, filler neck, and that's it.
All right, so now with our marks here, I'm gonna go ahead, use our plasma cutter with a straight edge, get these all cut out so we can get this bed on the chassis.
Well, we've got our area marked for our filler neck, and it lined it up right where we want it. Well, not really, it's in a pretty bad spot. So for our hole saw here to open up, I'm just gonna go ahead and drill the hole first. It's right there in the seam, that makes it really tough. So get that opened up, then cut the big hole out. Bingo. There we go. All right, set this thing down.
Let's see what we got. Okay. Hold on. All right.
There she is. That looks good.
That looks pretty good to me.
All right, now before we can make our custom set of headers for this truck, we have to install one more piece, and that is the steering shaft. Now, it lies right in the area where we make those headers. So our truck uses this factory steering box right here that utilizes the parallelogram style steering system that you had a drag link, an idler arm, pitman arm. They worked fine over the years, but there's been some improvements in that technology.
And one of those improvements was this trick piece from Flaming River. Now we got this, all it does is bolts right into the chassis, and it's gonna give us a lot more room to clear those headers. What do you say we get this installed?
Yeah, I'm gonna get this stuff out of here. Get it bolted in. Now we can get this bracket off here and separate these two, make it a little bit easier to install.
All right, let's see if we can get this thing up in here.
Slide that back. All right. Hold this up here. All right, get that bracket in here. Got its spot. Yeah. Now this rack and pinion kit from Flaming River bolts right into your 88 to 98 1500 Chevy truck. It eliminates all that unnecessary sloppy feel from the factory linkage system and provides a tight steering response. And then your same tie rods lock into place. All right, get the steering shaft on here. Somewhere, there it goes there. And then we slide it up here. This extends out. And once we install this for good, we'll take all these out, put a flat on our shaft, tighten that up, tighten those jam nuts, and be good to go. If you ever remember the days as a kid building puzzles and you saw that picture on the box and man, that's a really cool puzzle, I want to put that together. Until you open up the box, dump out all the pieces, and you see, wow, what did I get myself into? That's kind of what we got going on here with our exhaust system. When you fabricate an exhaust system from the headers all the way back to the tailpipes, well, you got a lot going on. But take it one piece at a time and you'll end up with a really nice fitting exhaust system. So let's start building that puzzle. Now, when we talk about building our own set of headers, well, it might bring up a lot of headaches for some of you. Don't worry, it does me too. But take it one tube at a time, and you'll end up with a really nice piece that you can be proud of. First thing we need to do, well, we've already got our exhaust flange attached to the cylinder head. Then that's point A, and then point B is gonna be our collector. So we're gonna get our collector fixed in a spot that we think it's gonna be happy for the set, and then we'll just connect the dots. Sounds simple, right? Let's get to it. We went ahead and got our collectors underneath the truck tacked in place where we think they're gonna land. That gives us a fixed point between the flange and the collector on the bottom side of the truck so we can match up those pipes. Now you might be thinking, why do you have to build a custom set of headers? Well, this is 632 cubic inches of big block power. It's moving a lot of air. There are some companies that do make headers for big block in this chassis, but they're a little small on the primary tube diameter, about 1.75 inches. We're going with 2 inches on our primary tube diameter. Now that might be a little small for this one as well, but we have to compromise with the real estate that we have and the capability of the engine. So now what we have to do is, I already took this one pipe and started cutting it up, kind of getting an eyeball of where she's gonna land. So it's just a matter of doing some cuts on the bandsaw, fitting up a couple other pieces, tack them into place. One by one, they'll fall together. Let's see here, how far that needs to stick out from the collector. About, that looks good. Keep my eye on that spot right there. Okay, right there. All right, with this piece cut for the collector, and then this one for our flange coming out of the cylinder, well, now we just need to get it down in there and see what the length is on this one, and then the angle we have to cut on this one to make it match up. There. All right, we got it marked where she needs to be. Now it's just time to make the cut.
And speaking of cuts, there's a couple tricks that you want to pay attention to when you're dealing with radiuses and the stuff that I have to deal with on this side to try to get around the steering column. So when you're working on the bandsaw, you're going to be dealing with different radiuses, whether it's 180s, 45s, 90s. You just got to make sure when you're cutting these that you stay on the tangent of the radius. So that means, say you want to take a pie out of here, you want to make sure you're cutting straight to the center line of that radius. That way you're not going to have to deal with any oblong shapes, anything oval in the tube that's going to mess up your fit up. And then another thing you want to pay attention to is you want to make sure that you're clean on both the inside and on the outside. That way when you go to weld it up, you're not going to deal with any porosity. You're going to get a nice clean weld. So let's see how this one fits up in here. All right, let's see what we're looking like here. Hey Mike, you want to give me a mark here?
Sure. What you got?
And just go ahead and mark that right there.
There. Oh yeah.
All right, I think we're good. Let's go ahead, we'll get this thing out of here, get it tacked up, see if we have any more fitting to do.
Looks good.
All right, so we got these fit up. Let's go ahead and tack them. All right, so we'll go ahead and line up our lines that we got marked, and then we'll get it tacked up. All right, so we got that all tacked up. Let's go fit it up again in the truck, make sure it fits. All right, let's see how we're fitting here. All right, so it looks like I got something to work with here. We'll start back at the collector now, figure out my angle and get another piece in there. We'll do that process about 15 to 60 more times, and we should have a complete set of headers by then.
Oh, yeah. I think I was made for it. Tack it up. All right, well, we got all our pieces fit and where we like them.
Yeah, the only thing we got left to do is get them off the truck, get them on the table, and get it welded up.
Right. You know, this looks so good. If we don't ever start the engine, we just leave it like that.
Be a lot easier that way. So now that we have our headers all fabricated, it's almost time to start welding. But there's a couple steps we're gonna have to take to ensure that we're getting a good weld. And one of those steps is called back purging. And all back purging is taking whatever gas that you're using, which in our case is 100% straight argon, and filling the inside of whatever tube you're welding with that gas. And that's gonna ensure that you're getting a good, solid weld with no cracking issues. And you want your weld to have the same surface area on the outside and on the inside. So that's gonna make sure that you're getting a nice clean weld on in there, okay? And so the way that we did it here is on this side, we took a piece of aluminum and just figured out our flange bolt pattern and bolted this to it. Now, there's a few companies that make silicone plugs and that way, but we don't have those, so we just decided to do that. Now down here, I'm gonna use a couple of inexpensive household items that'll serve the same purpose as those plugs. And the first of those I'm gonna use is a piece of aluminum foil. So you go ahead and you rip your piece off right here. You wanna make sure you triple it up, make it nice and thick, just like that. So we'll do that. Get your piece of cardboard that you already cut out to the diameter or whatever you're trying to purge. So we'll stick that on there like this, get it up. Wrap it just like that. Make sure it's nice and tight and flat. And then take your hose clamp and stick it right there on there like that. All right, that should be good. So now we got a nice sealed surface here. We got a nice sealed surface here. We'll go ahead and we'll insert our argon line right into here and we'll be ready to weld. So what you're gonna wanna do is have a hole here so that your argon line can thread into the cardboard. I already drilled one, so I'm just gonna open that up right there, grab my line, and start threading it in. So when you're threading these in, you wanna make sure you're not going too crazy because it is cardboard and it will pull out. I like to wrap a little aluminum foil tape around this. We don't have any, and this thing's holding pretty tight, so we're good to go there. Now another tip I got for you is you gotta keep your tungsten sharp, you gotta keep it clean. And the way I like to do that is with this Piranha 3 here from Diamond Ground Products. It's a real nice machine. All you do is you turn it on here, get your tungsten in the right size hole, put it in, spin it, and we're ready to rock and roll. It's nice sharp tungsten. It'll keep our welds nice and clean. Only thing left I gotta do is turn that argon on and we'll get to burning. So one of the most important things when you're welding is to be comfortable. If you're not comfortable, the weld's not gonna come out good.
Well, now that we have our headers installed, it's time to fabricate the rest of this exhaust system. Now, the exhaust is a key area to provide the personality of a vehicle. And for me, there's nothing better than a mid-90s stock car ripping around Daytona at full song. Now, we may not be hitting the high banks anytime soon, but we can emulate that sound. We're gonna do that with this X-pipe and these boom tubes from SpinTech mufflers. Now, when we don't want it to be so loud, well, we're gonna have an option to have a sort of a dual personality setup with these exhaust cutouts, and that's the subject of today's Summit Tech Tip. Now, these exhaust cutouts that we got from Summit Racing, they've actually been around for a long time. In fact, a lot of newer cars have a type of system like this called adaptive exhaust. So when you want to be discreet on the street, well, the exhaust is going to come out this direction, through the mufflers, and out the tailpipes. But when it's time to open up and let that big block sing, well, these valves open, and the exhaust comes out our boom tube. Now, this whole kit is very simple, very easy to install, and it comes with everything you need. We have a switch, the wiring harness, and all the hardware included. All we have to do is provide power and ground, hit the switch, There you go. Now we're making all the noise out the boom tube. But when we pull in that drive-through, we need to quieten it down a little bit. Well, we close it right back up. This whole kit is very simple. You can get a set of these at Summit Racing. Now for us, well, we need to fabricate the rest of our exhaust system.
Well, as you can see, we've been making quite a bit of progress on our Project 632 SS build. We've got all our sheet metal and our black satin paint, and we got this piece of eye candy sitting right here. Now, if you remember the last time you saw this, it was a little more rust colored, but we took this over to our friends from Blast from the Past, and they put this beautiful silver metallic powder coat on it. They immediately got the chassis off the trailer and into the sandblast booth and stripped down that 30+ years of grime and rust that was sitting on this chassis. They then moved it over to the powder coat side of things and sprayed this beautiful Bengal silver metallic that you see here. And as you can see, this thing turned out absolutely beautiful. It's really gonna pop when we get that satin black body down on the chassis. Now, we've already got our Ride Tech suspension installed in it. We've showed you how to do it. We have a few more things to do, and that's gonna start with the brakes.
Yeah, now for the brake system, we reached out to our friends at BAER Brakes, and they hooked us up with this 14-inch Extreme Plus package. It's got 6 piston calipers on all 4 corners. Now to get this installed, first thing we gotta do is start with this axle and axle seal. Now, we already showed you our rear axle housing here from Quick Performance. They also sent us these axle shafts. Now, these are 35 spline axles that they've matched up with our power level. And you can also custom order your links. And I actually made this housing about 1 inch narrower than stock so we can get the biggest tire possible between our control arm and that fender on the bed there. So I put a little assembly lube on our seal, on our splines, and down here on the bearing. Now we just gotta slide it in. That. All right, let's get the rest of those brakes on there. All right, our next piece is the parking brake assembly, which also doubles as the bearing retainer. We just got to get this shoe off here, set that down, and this is going to slide up on the back side and retain that bearing. I also like to put a little bit of silicone for an extra step or an extra level of protection there to keep it from leaking out. Now this plate just slides up. This little opening here allows us to go up over the axle shaft. And up over here. Take our T-bolts from the back, put some thread locker, red thread locker, along with a lock washer. Make sure she don't come out. The neat thing about these axles here, this opening, if you're concerned, what's that big hole for? Well, that gives us access to tighten up these nuts for these retaining bolts. I'll run these down, get them snug, and all I have to do is spin this around to the next one. Tighten them all down. We're gonna tighten them to 30 foot-pounds. Get my torque wrench here once we snug these up. Now we'll torque them all down. Click. Click. Now we can get our parking brake shoe on here. And this just slides boop, boop, right over that axle flange there. Just got to make sure you get the ends of that shoe down into the adjuster in the bottom. Blue thread locker, because that's going into aluminum. That's kind of my little judge on strengthness there with the colors. 2 screws in there, and that would be installed. Now we're gonna torque them down to 120 inch-pounds. All right. So now's a good time just to double check all your clearances between the flange, the wheel studs, the T-bolts. Make sure that there's nothing hitting because you got a lot of custom pieces here. So, yep, all that clears. Our shoe is centered. Move on to the next step. This intermediate bracket here, this gives you a chance to customize your braking system. Ours is gonna be set up for a trailing. Now, a leading brake system, the caliper would be mounted up front. Ours is gonna be mounted to the back. And they also have a few different provisions where if you wanted to clock it at a different angle. We're just gonna go with the old 90-degree kind of 9 o'clock position there. Now, right now, we're just gonna tighten these up by hand, get them snug, because we gotta make some adjustments to this position for shimming. I'll show you a little bit later. All right, next is our brake rotors. Well, this one right here, it's 14 inches in diameter. And anytime you can increase the diameter of your brake rotor, well, it gives you more leverage, more stopping power there. All right, put some lug nuts on here to keep that thing flush as we adjust the calipers. All right, next piece is our calipers. Now, this is the heart of the system here. 6-piston caliper. It's machined out of one piece of aluminum. That gives it all the strength and rigidity compared to a lot of stock setup. So we gotta get this on here, and then we gotta measure for some shims to get it centered with the rotor. Just so you know your caliper's installed the right direction, make sure your bleeder screws are facing up. Now, to center our rotor and the calipers, you can see the difference, the gap right here. Well, we've got these shims that we have to install between our intermediate plate. Take our calipers here, take that measurement. We've got 905, and then on this side, we've got 830. We'll subtract those two, divide it in half, and then that'll tell us the amount of shim to move this back and forth. Okay, so we measured at the top of the caliper and at the bottom of the caliper on both sides of the rotor, and the difference was 70 thousandths. So we take that 70 divided by 2, it gives us 35 thousandths. That means 2 of these little shims comes out to 32 thousandths, and that's within our 5 thou window that they're looking for. We'll get these shims installed between the intermediate plate and that backing plate, and we can put the brake pads in and button it up.
Well, Mike's been busy finishing up the rear. I've been working on the front. Now, with this Ride Tech kit and the 14-inch rotors and the 6-piston BAER brakes that we're running, their spindle that they send with the kit isn't gonna work for us. So what we did is we called up AZ Pro Performance and got one of their React 2-inch modular drop spindles, and that allows us to run this BAER setup. We also installed a speed sensor up here that we're gonna touch base on a little bit later. And then to get us steering in the right direction, we're gonna replace our steering components up front here. The first thing we started with was this turnbuckle from Ride Tech. Now, they don't send this in the kit. That's something you're gonna have to buy extra because they want you to utilize your factory steering components. Ours are in pretty bad shape, so we're gonna go ahead and replace that. The next thing we're gonna replace are these tie rod ends from Duralast. Now, these Duralast tie rod ends, they're built to meet or exceed OEM quality fit, form, and function, and they're a real nice piece. It's gonna really tighten up the steering. Let's go ahead and get this installed. Now, Duralast thoroughly tests all their components to give you extreme longevity and performance, and these tie rod ends are no exception, and that's why we're putting them on the truck. And then the only thing that we're gonna have left to do after this, get the rotor, get the caliper on, and then we're gonna be able to mount up the wheels and tires and get this thing down on the ground. All right, we'll get this last nut torqued up, and this front end's gonna be ready to rip. I think it's about time we get some wheels and tires on this bad boy.
Yeah, for the wheels, we reached out to Summit Racing, and they sent us this US Mag wheel. It's a kind of a tribute to the 454 SS wheel back in the day. That wasn't a 15-inch, this is in a 20-inch. And we wrapped it in these Continental Extreme Contact Sport 02s. That is an ultra high-performance summer tire and gives you great traction whether it's dry or wet. And that'll be perfect for our application here, whether it's on the track or on the street. So let's get them wrapped up, put them on the truck, and have us a roller. This tire comes complete with Sport Plus technology, which provides track-proven performance and extended tread life. Now, before we can drop the bed onto our chassis, we've got to finish up our fuel system, and that starts with our fuel pump. Now this one right here is from Holley. It's a 525 liter per hour unit that will support over 1,200 horsepower on a fuel injected system. This kit comes for a variety of fuel tank depths. So what we have to do is measure our fuel tank, and we have to trim our supply hose, the return hose, and the mounting bracket so we get it at the right spot in the tank. Looks like 9 3/4 the top of the tank. Now, once you've got your tank depth measurement, refer to Holley's instructions to let you know how much you need to cut off your tubes here. For us, well, it's 2 1/4 inches. So I'll pull out my tape measure, we'll mark it right there, and that's where we'll make our cut. Now both your supply and your return hose get cut at the same length. Next, we need to trim our fuel mount bracket. We'll take that over to the bandsaw. The fuel pump mounting bracket has a different measurement than the tubes. Refer to your instructions to know how much you need to cut off. Ours is 1 1/4 inches. Now with our pieces trimmed up, we just got to put it together. Gasket off here. Slide that into there. All right, now we'll get our pump installed. Slide it over the barb and tighten up our clamp. Now with our hose clamps installed, along with the hydromat on the bottom of the pump, we just got to get it in the tank. We'll finish tightening them up by torquing them to 60 inch-pounds. Going a star pattern here. Now with the fuel pump installed, we've got a couple of more components in our fuel system. The fuel filter and the fuel pressure regulator. Now this is going to be mounted up on the firewall real close to the engine, so we'll get to that later. So now we're going to get the fuel filter. I'm thinking we're going to install it somewhere in this general area. All right, so I just whipped up a little bracket, mount our fuel filter to. Now I've got to put it on the frame. We'll attach it to the frame using these ARP Fasteners. Well, we got our 10 micron filter installed. We got the pump in the tank. Now we just got to connect everything. We like to use Earls for their fittings and their hose to get the job done.
Hey, Mike, this thing's all welded up. Where do you want me to put it?
On the truck.
Well, I guess we got to put the motor in it, don't we?
Yeah, yeah.
That might help. Well, as you can see, we've come a long way on this 632 SS chassis. We've got the engine and trans in its final spot. We've got our exhaust hung, and we ran our fuel and brake lines. Now we have one more thing left to do, and that's install the drive shaft.
Yeah, so we sent all of our specs down to Chattanooga Driveline, and this is what they sent us. It's a 4-inch diameter steel tube drive shaft. That's gonna be strong enough to handle all the horsepower that that engine's making. So now we just gotta get it installed. In the cup.
She's home.
Okay. There we go. Now that our chassis is a roller, we can get it underneath the cab, lower it down, and then get the bed back on it so it looks like a truck again. All right, now that we've got the bed and the cab installed, we can wrap up the clutch and brake system on the truck. For our brake master cylinder, we're going with this unit from BAER. Now it's matched with the rest of our brake system with the calipers as well. And we're gonna ditch that power brake booster. We're getting rid of that ugly thing off that firewall, and we're going with manual brakes. You may be thinking, why would you wanna go with manual brakes? Well, when you properly engineer the entire brake system, you'll get a great pedal feel. And what they do is they'll engineer the size of your calipers along with the bore here of the master cylinder to get you that great pedal effort there, and it'll look nice on that firewall. So now we just gotta bleed this thing on the bench and get it hung on that firewall. right, get it on the truck. All right, got that on there. Anthony's gonna make us some hard lines to connect the two. Now I'm gonna jump inside and work on the clutch pedal. Okay, now we showed you the manual transmission that we're going with from American Powertrain, but they also sent us this clutch pedal and master cylinder setup that bolts right in to these trucks. Now, like I said, it's got the master cylinder attached and they've got all the geometry laid out, engineered perfectly, and it just sandwiches the factory bracket. Now we just gotta bolt it in place. All right, well now that we got the clutch pedal master cylinder installed, it shows another issue, the clearance between the clutch pedal and the brake pedal, because this one was for an automatic transmission. They're typically a bit wider. So we're gonna take this brake arm out, trim that pedal down a little bit, re-drill the pivot point for the push rod that goes in the master cylinder, and that's gonna wrap up this installation.
All right, while Mike's finishing up our master cylinder install, I'm gonna move forward and get our radiator mounted up. Now we went to Cold Case Products for this, and it's 100% TIG welded, polished aluminum piece, and it's made to fit any 88 through 98 GM pickup truck. There's a couple steps you gotta do before you can get it in the truck, and that first step is mounting these fans on this shroud. So let's go ahead and show you how to do that. All right, so now that we got that blue wrap off of it, we can go ahead and get these mocked up. Now they give you four riv nuts per side already mounted in the shroud. It'll give you a bunch of different ways you can clock these. We're gonna go ahead and get these so the wires point in the middle, clock down. That way we can run with the frame rails and be tucked up nice and tight, get it out of the way. So let's go ahead. First step's gonna get these clips. You slide them down into these little receiving areas. There's 4 per fan. All right, now that we got all the clips in, we can start running some bolts down to it. Now they also send you a complete wiring kit that comes with it. It comes with a relay and then a thermostatically controlled switch that already has a bung welded into the radiator. Now we're not gonna be using that switch since we're running the Terminator X system, and that's gonna control our fans. But if you were to use this, it would have the fans turn on at about 190 degrees. And it makes it real nice that you already have that option to be able to run that. Some of them are a little tight, so you may have to tug on it in one direction or another to get them to go, but so far they're all in. All right, we'll get this last one snugged up and she's ready to mount on the radiator. And when you're mounting, you gotta make sure that you're mounting it on the right side. These fans are gonna pull, not push, so we gotta put it on the back side of the radiator, which is this side. All right, so we're gonna use bolts in this case. They have slots here on these top rails and the bottom one, so go ahead and just slap those in there. All right, this thing's all snugged up, ready to drop in the truck. All right, see what we're looking like here. Now we're utilizing the factory lower radiator rubbers. Now these trucks originally came with a mechanical fan setup that included a radiator shroud that also served as the top mount. We're not running that anymore, so I whipped up this quick bracket. It's gonna go ahead and lock this radiator nice and tight, and it's gonna clean up the top of the core support. Let's go ahead and drop this thing in here.
Perfect.
That looks pretty nice.
Yeah, when it comes to that radiator, I think that's case closed. You know, we got a lot done today, but we're so close to firing this thing
Yeah,
up.
I can't wait to hear this beast. It's gonna be nasty.
I think for the hoses, we'll have to come off this way for upper hose like that.
Yeah, we're probably gonna have to paint this, I think.
Definitely paint it.
Might help. So as you can see, we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel on our 632 SS project. While it's a little dim at this point, hopefully after today, it'll be a little brighter and we can check some stuff off our list.
Yeah, when talking about lists, when it comes to this stage of the project, you're always gonna think of little small things to do, so it's always a good idea to make you a little list and check those things off. We got a couple things going. First thing we gotta do is get the battery installed in this, and we're not putting it under the hood. We're actually gonna relocate that to the bed. So let's go ahead and get it dropped in. All right, so similar to the fuel tank situation, we're gonna move the battery to the bed to give us a better weight balance, clean up that engine bay, and also try to get some more weight towards the back, get a little bit more traction, because we're gonna need it with that big engine. So to move the battery back here, we've got this battery box kit that we've got from Mr. Gasket. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna mount that back here. The biggest obstacle is the ribs in the bed. So I try to straddle these two here. That gives it enough surface area to hold that down. So now, I think I'm just gonna mark a couple of holes to drill right about here, and one on the back side, and that'll have the bolts that go down to hold the battery down. So let's get them drilled out. Alrighty. Looks about right. Now let's get the battery and some hardware. So for this battery right here, I just went on the AutoZone Pro website and sorted them all by the dimensions, because I wanted to get the biggest battery that would fit in our battery box with the most cold cranking amps. That way it's got enough juice to turn over that big block Chevy. Now let's get it dropped in the box here. Okay, now the way that this box works, we've got a little clamp that goes across the top of the battery, and then we've got these two bolts here that drop in the holes that we just drilled. Got one on this side, and we'll have one on the back side here. Got a bolt goes in. Go ahead and put our hardware on. Hold that. And then the one on the back side, same thing. That's gonna go there. And then on the bottom side, we'll slide underneath the bed. And then I made a little bracket here that's going to go in between both of those threaded studs that drop to the bottom there, and it's gonna sandwich the bottom of the bed, the floor there, to give it a lot more strength than just a nut on the bottom of that at the bottom of the bed. So we'll slide on the bottom, slide this up, get the nuts on, and then we gotta run some cable. All right, do a little paint on our bracket, and we'll get it up here, get some hardware on it. All right, with the battery securely fastened, now we get our cables run through the bed floor and drill some holes. I'm gonna mark right in this area here where it lines up with the posts. Grommets in here. Now our battery box kit comes with this sweet yellow battery cable that we can trim down to fit, and that's what I've done here with the negative. All right, we're gonna run this right through our provision, and it's gonna go down to the frame. Okay, Move that over and tighten it down. And then the positive, it needs to be long enough to get to the front of the truck, so that's why we've got a lot of length here with that. I'm gonna leave that out till I can get to on the bottom side so I don't make sure they don't touch together. But once that's through there, then we got a lid that'll go on top of this. Nice clearance for it, and then a strap goes around the top, buttons it up. So we can check that off the list.
Hey guys, well as you can see, we're in the prep booth today and I'm starting to scuff some of our hard plastic interior pieces. Now in the 80s and 90s, most of the car manufacturers like to use this hard plastic and it was known to get easily sun damaged. Ours is in pretty good shape, but it's the wrong color. We're going with a black interior on our 632 project, so we're gonna scuff it, shoot some black paint on it, and we should be good to go. So let's get to it. All right, now that we got these all hit with the gray scuff pad, we can go ahead and start wiping them down with our wax and grease remover. Now, basically what I'm doing is just spraying a direct to metal hot rod black over all this, but you gotta make sure that whatever you're using, it works with plastic, because you don't want any of the solvents to be reacting and mess up all your pretty plastic. So we'll get this all wiped down, give it a nice hit with the tack cloth, and then we should be good to spray. All right, now that we've got this all wiped down with our wax and grease remover, we're gonna do another step and we're gonna put a plastic adhesion promoter on our panels. Now we've already given it a mechanical tooth to it with our scuff pads. This is gonna give us some chemical tooth and it's gonna help our paint stick to this nice hard plastic. So we'll go ahead and start spraying this out. Now you're just gonna put a couple light coats on it. And with this stuff, they want you to spray it pretty quickly. We gotta wait about 10 minutes and no more than that. So we got to pretty much start spraying our paint directly after we spray this. So we're going to do these 4 panels for now, and then we'll get to the rest of them so that way we're not rushing to try to get everything done. And you don't want to cake this stuff on. You just want to do nice light coats. All right, with our adhesion promoter on the pieces, we can go now mix our paint and get to spraying these.
Well, while Anthony gets the interior parts painted, I'm gonna get these doors assembled. We're gonna put new seals on them. We reached out to Steel Rubber Products and they sent us all the weather strip we need to freshen up this truck. We're gonna start with this belt line molding right here. It's on the outside of the window. We'll get it popped in place here. All right. Now the inner window felt, well, it staples to the top of the door panel, so we'll attach that later on. Now let's get the window channel in, and this, they make it really nice. In the mold, they put an L and an R so you don't get confused on which side it goes. This is gonna pop right into that groove. Just a little patience, working it into that groove. There she goes. That looks a lot better. Beautimous. All right, Next, we'll get our weather strip in. This goes around the perimeter of the door. Let's see here, the direction. Yep, that's right there. Start it down here at the bottom because that's where our sill plate is. This stuff is real easy to install. It just slides right over that channel right there. The rubber's got little teeth that hold on to it. Now, back in the day, they had a lot of weather strip adhesive that you could put a little glue in there. You could still do that, but these things hold so tight, I'm not gonna worry about putting any glue on these. The factory didn't have any glue, so we'll leave these just like that. Just gotta work it, right in there. And without trimming it any, that lines up perfect. All right, one last piece is this upper seal. Get it out. Goes around this top edge right here between the door and the roof. So we'll start over here. Same thing, it just pops in that channel. Beautiful. All right, like it's that in there, looks good. We still got a lot of cleanup to do in the cab, so don't get your panties in a wad.
Hey, yo, Mikey.
Yep.
Got this hot off the press. Turned out pretty good.
Yeah, let's see how it matches up. I tell you what, that works pretty good.
Yeah, we got about 20 more pieces to do,
Oh,
but
well, let's go get to working on them.
let's get it on.
Well, you've probably seen on a lot of modern vehicles traction control or stability control. Well, manufacturers utilize this to keep the car under control and keep you safe going down the road. But on the motorsport side of things, traction control is typically deemed illegal as it's a performance advantage. But that hasn't stopped many teams from trying to get it on the car. One of the most clever ways I've heard about traction control being installed is with this permanent marker. Yeah, the car goes through tech inspection, it's clean, but when the driver goes through, signs some autographs, he jumps into the car, he hooks this up, and now they've got that performance advantage. Now we're gonna try to hook that up on our truck today. Let me show you how that's done. For the system to work, the computer needs to see front wheel speed and rear wheel speed. Now the way that we're gonna do that, we've got these high quality Hall effect sensors that we made a little bracket attached to the spindle, and it's gonna pick up the backside of the lug stud. So as it spins, it's gonna create a signal and send that to the computer. Now we know the sensor is working correctly because we've got some lights on the backside here that as you spin that, it starts flashing, that letting it know it's got a signal. And then on the back of the truck for the rear wheel speed, well, we've got that same type of sensor set up on the pinion. It's gonna give us a good signal to the computer. Now, our Holley Terminator X wiring harness already has a pigtail for inputs and outputs, sensor power and ground, and that's how we're gonna connect those sensors to the system here. Now we just gotta go into the software and identify those. First thing we're gonna do is go to the toolbox and add an individual config and scroll down to traction, and that'll populate a tab up here. We'll get that, that's for our traction control setup. Now we're going with a wheel slip method. This is kind of like the entry-level setup. There are some more traction control softwares out there that you could buy that are much more sophisticated, that react really quick, and they give you more options to control the engine. But for what we're doing, this will be fine. Now we'll go over to our inputs and outputs and identify these terminals that the sensors are coming into the computer for. So front wheel speed, rear wheel speed, it's a digital frequency, and we've named the pins that they're connected to. Then we can go back to the traction control and go to our wheel slip and click on timing. Now what this does, traction control, it's gonna look at the front wheel speed versus the rear wheel speed. And when there's a difference, like say the rear wheels are spinning a lot faster than the front, well, it's gonna take timing, ignition timing out of the engine in an effort to slow it down, to keep the car under control there. So you can set up how much timing, how quick you want it to react. So what I've done is I've got 10 degrees of ignition timing to come out at max right there to help bring that engine down so we can get traction again. And you can, like I said, you can ramp this up depending on how much you want, how quick you want it there. So what we're gonna do now is let's go ahead and connect to the computer here, and we're gonna verify that the front wheel is hooked up there. So Anthony, go ahead and spin that thing, that front wheel, to see what we've got. Let's see here, let me go over here to our gauges, and we gotta add the front wheel speed, so we'll find that and bring that to this tab here. And okay, and don't save, then it populates right there. So let's see if it spins right there. Go ahead and spin it.
All right.
1, 7, 8, 7, 6, 10, 11 miles an hour. Oh yeah, that's top speed of the meet right there. So now that we've verified that that works, what we gotta do is drive this thing down the road and do some calibration between the front and rear, make sure those sensors are reading accurately, and we can fine tune that. So for now, we're good to go.
Well, guys, as you can see, we got our dash out of the paint booth, and man, it turned out really good. So one more piece of the puzzle we got to install, and that's our gauge cluster. And for that, we went to Classic Instruments and got one of their 88 through 94 OBS gauge clusters. Now, they give you all the sending units you need to make it run in your factory engine. Obviously, the engine in this truck ain't factory. So we went with one of their Zeus Link interfaces, and that allows us to directly connect to our Terminator X. Now, they also make one where you can plug it directly into your OBD2 port, and it'll work on the factory ECU. Now, we have an 89, obviously this truck's an 89, and then we have this style of gauge cluster. So they want you to reuse your factory diffuser and your lens. So we had to do some modifications to ours to make it work with the newer style gauge cluster. So all I did was use a cutoff wheel, cut this all out, and cleaned it up. So now all we gotta do is get it in the dash so we can get it back in that truck. So let's do it. Now, another thing to note with this lens, I had to drill this hole here for this post, and that's what calibrates the new gauge setup. Now, if you have later model gauges, it already has that hole drilled, so you won't have to worry about it. But if you have the style of gauges we have, you're gonna have to drill a hole. Now, another way to set up the system is if you're using the Zeus Link setup, then you just use the app. Makes it nice and easy. All right, last piece of the puzzle here. We'll get this thing tightened down, and then this dash ready to go back in the truck. I'm excited to see it in there.
All right, well, we're dangerously close to getting this thing fired up, and we're just itching to hear it run. I got enough of the vitals hooked up that we can crank this thing over. Last thing we need to do is put some oil in this big block. So what we're gonna do here, we've got this Schaefer's Supreme 7000 Synthetic Plus. Now, we're using this stuff just because of the engine, this combination here, it's gonna be what we need for the protection. And it's also recommended by our buddies down the street, Pat and Frankie. Now, this is gonna give us superior film strength for extra protection against wear. It has proven performance against thermal breakdown while suppressing the formation of deposits, sludge, and varnish. Plus, with its friction modifiers, it'll provide a strong barrier against scuffing and abrasion. All right, well, there's a lot of good information I could tell you about engine oil, but one little nugget I'll drop. The W in a multi-grade oil, that stands for winter, not weight, as a lot of people think right there.
What do you say we get this breather on, put some fire into some holes?
I'm ready to hear this thing run.
So am I.
Let's see, we get this pop back in here. Yeah, we got enough of our management system hooked up to where we can fire this thing up and see what it sounds like. All right, that looks good. Hit the key.
Come on, baby. Good?
Yep.
I think that's a success, brother.
Dude,
Hell
that sounds great.
Yeah. Ain't nothing like a big block Chevy.
Yep. Well, we got a lot of little things to finish up, and one of those involves safety, and that's going to be the subject of today's Summit Tech Tip. When you're building custom trucks like ours, sometimes you have to re-engineer some of the subsystems. Now, ours was originally equipped with an automatic transmission, and we're switching to a manual transmission. All your factory manual transmission vehicles have a switch on the end of the clutch pedal there that interrupts the starter motor circuit. So you push your foot on the clutch pedal, and when you hit the starter, it will allow the engine to spin over. But if your foot's not on the clutch pedal all the way down, it's not going to let it start up prematurely. So for us, we don't have a switch on the end of the clutch pedal, but what we do have is I got this pressure switch I picked up from Summit Racing. I plumbed it into the hydraulic circuit here for the throwout bearing. So we'll hook this up like that, and that's going to complete the circuit down to the starter motor relay. Put our foot on the clutch pedal there, generates pressure, closes those contacts, and it'll allow the starter motor to spin over in a safe manner.
Well, we're getting real close to finishing up our Project 632 build, but we got one more important step to finish up, and that's installing our interior. Now, we got our full interior kit from TMI, and that includes this premium carpet kit, and it comes in multiple pieces, which makes install just a little bit easier. We've already got our padding down in the truck, so let's show you how to get this installed. Now, one trick that you really want to make sure that you do is when you get this stuff, it's going to come in a box. Get it out of the box, put it flat on the ground, so that way it gets all the wrinkles and all the stuff from being crammed in the box out of it. All right, now you want to make sure you're starting with the centerpiece of the 3 pieces for the floor that we have. And that way, because what we got to do is we got to trim this up, and so these pieces tuck up all nice, and this seam right here flows real nice with the centerpiece. Now they also have a cutout here for the air box. You want to make sure that you're wrapped around nice and tight on that, because that's what's kind of dictate on which direction this thing's going to settle in. All right. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to use some tack adhesive here. We're going to spray both sides of the carpet and on the padding that we've already got laid down here. And you want to work in about 12 to 14 inch increments, so that way you don't get yourself stuck in a bind. And you got a little time to work with this tack adhesive, so if you mess up, you still have a little bit of time to go ahead and fix your wrongs. Now we'll get all roller, try to get all these bumps out of it. Now you're just trying to get this stuff to lay down as flat as possible. I mean, nothing's flat, perfectly flat in this truck, unless you wanted to sculpt all this, but we're not doing that. We're just kind of trying to get this in, change the color, make it look good. All right, so next up, we got this sprayed down, it's holding. What we got to do now is cut an X in here to get our shifter to sit down nice and flat. That way we can get everything else to follow the contour. Now you want to make sure you're pulled tight, get it where you want it to go. So that way when you make this cut, it ends up in the right spot after you get it all flat. Find our center point of our shifter. Just take a regular utility knife, cut an X. Now we'll come back after the fact, after we get it all glued down, trim this up, make it nice. All right, that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that, so we'll pull it back up, get it over our shifter, get it back to your glue line, spray another 12 inches up. All right, give that a little time to set up. All right. Let's get her down. All right, get your roller. Roll it on out. Hey, yo, Mike, you mind grabbing that driver's side piece of carpet?
Okay.
Having a thought.
All right.
Might save us a little bit of time. All right. I mean, if we don't have to trim that, that's gonna save a lot of time.
Yeah,
And I don't think we're gonna have to. That fits pretty nice.
drops right in place. Glue it, send it.
You good?
Yep.
Rock and roll.
All right, get our sill plate on there and they'll tie that up real nice.
All right, well, it's in the truck. I got a few holes to punch, a little bit of trimming here and there, but overall it went in really easy. Put the kick panels in, a couple plastic pieces, and this thing's gonna be ready for a seat. Man, I tell you what, Mike, TMI has really got these seat frames down. You didn't have to mess with the holes at all. Everything lines up. And you got a little trick with this carpet that really makes install that much easier.
Yeah, what he's talking about, just took a piece of tubing here and made a sharp edge and then took a torch and heated up that end, and wherever you want to hold, well, just take that hot piece of tubing and whoop, pop it right through there, and it really cuts that edge nice and clean.
Yeah, and it also keeps the carpet from fraying at the ends because it kind of melts it together, which, as we know, that can be a major issue with putting carpet in.
Yeah, I've tried in the past drilling holes through the floor, through the carpet right there. So you get that drill bit, hit that carpet, it just spins it, and pulls it all out, makes it all a mess.
And then at the end of it, you got a big line missing your loop, which is no good.
All right, well, while you finish that up, I'm gonna grab the console.
Sounds good.
And for our seats, TMI sent us this Cruiser Collection Pro low backs. They're black to match our truck with that red stitching, gonna look really nice. And in the middle, we've got our console here that flips up to be a little buddy seat and has a little storage offering there with the cup holders. Now let's put it in the truck. All right, let's get this guy in here.
Right on. Looks like I can slap a driver's seat in here, huh?
Yep. Bingo. This is a lot better than having to go underneath the truck, like the other old school seats.
That's the truth.
For door panels, we're also going with TMI's Cruiser Collection. It's gonna match up with our seats real nice. Now, what I really like about these is the backing of them is fiberglass based, unlike a lot of your other manufacturers that use more of a chipboard or paper-like material that's susceptible to a lot of moisture. Yep, pretty good. Pop that in place up top. And we'll just pop it in the bottom here. All right. Screw down our door handle. I got a little piece of foam that goes in there to cover those up, but other than that, she's in there. Looks good.
So we got one more piece to the TMI puzzle, and that's this trick dash piece they send with the kit. Now it's made just like the door panels, got fiberglass on the back, same vinyl, same red stitching. Now, 90% of these trucks have cracked dash pads, so this is a nice option to have. Mike, you wanna throw this thing in?
Yep. We'll test that thing out and see how it fits in there.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's gonna fit pretty good. It's a nice piece.
Got the Velcro backing, but we'll test it out first. All right, we'll get that thing buttoned down and we can take this thing down the street.
Yeah, we're almost ready to be banging some gears, aren't we?
I'll tell you what, I can't wait.
Well, neither can I.
All right, guys, well, we just left Graphic Effects. We got our stripe down the side. Man, that thing's a cherry on top.
It literally is a cherry on top with those luscious lips, candy red. I mean, it looks good on this truck.
Yeah, that stripe, you know, I was trying to go for that first-gen Camaro SS hockey stick stripe that they have on those, where it comes up on the fender and then makes a hard turn and tapers to the quarter panel. Yeah. And that's kind of the mindset with this one here, and I think it looks perfect.
Yeah, and then that 632, that original early truck with the same kind of font, same type of logo. Yeah, I mean, it really sets the truck off.
Yeah, they did a great job with the graphics there. They always treat us right, and they hit the ball right out of the park with what we're looking for.
Yeah, no, it really set the truck off.
You know, going down the road here, getting our first few laps on this thing, the Holley fuel system, the Terminator X, all the management there, all that stuff is working flawlessly. The truck's running great. Transmission from American Powertrain with the clutch pedal.
I mean, it feels really good. Pedals in the right spot. I mean, I couldn't be happier with that.
Yeah, we got 6 gears. We're going down the interstate. We're in 5th. You know, probably doing about 70 miles an hour.
I'm actually in 4th right now.
Oh,
let's see it. Can we get it in a 5th? There we go, 5th.
There you
Just
go.
cruising. It's like, I mean, you can daily this truck with 632 cubic inches and over 700 wheel horsepower.
Yeah. the tires, you know, that wheel package is kind of reminiscent of the old school 454 SS wheels, Continental tires. This thing's been stuck every turn. You know, we've got on it pretty good and it's stuck. Now, if we want to spin the tires, well, we can do that.
It'll step out pretty much in any gear. So.
Yeah.
But I mean, this Ride Tech suspension, I just feel it's so responsive and it's just so planted that I know what it's going to do, and I appreciate that, especially in a truck with this much power.
Right.
And that exhaust note, I mean, depending on which one you want, you have two different attitudes, and they're both just nasty.
Yeah, we've got the Spin Tech, those boom tubes that they sent us, and we made that dual personality exhaust with the cutouts. You know, it just adds another level of character to this thing.
That it does. This thing is just an absolute blast to drive. Power wherever you want it, it's there. It doesn't matter where you're at, how fast you're going, you have power. And I think I need that type of power in my own vehicle because I was an LS guy, but I think I'm done with that.
Right. You've been driving around all day, but it's been comfortable over here in these TMI seats, but I want to try the driver's seat.
Mike, I don't know if I want to get out of this seat. I'm having too much fun over here.
I tell you what, there it goes. Tell you what, I get that driver's seat, I'm going to show you around Nashville. We got a few cool places that we'll cruise by in our truck. Maybe even stop, check out, run this thing a little bit. You know, growing up in Nashville, it's really changed a lot in the sense of, you know, the popularity of Nashville. Even the sports teams, you know, have really evolved. So we'll go up here, we'll switch out. We got a few places to show y'all.
All right, I'd love to see it.
All right, well, here we go, Anthony.
Going through the tunnel.
Yeah, Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway.
This is gonna be cool.
One of the oldest round tracks in the country. Still operates on a weekly basis. Gotta get that.
That's right. There she is.
Yeah, here we go. Coming off of turn 4.
Wave to your fans. Man, this place is cool. I just wish we need to build a couple more of these trucks, get them out here. That'd be a fun Saturday night.
Yeah.
All right, where's the victory donut? Well, Mike, out of all the spots you took me to, I think this one's my favorite.
Dude, I tell you what, this has been quite the day. We had a little bit of rain, but it cleared up, sun come out.
Track dried up.
Track dried out. I mean, ripping this thing around the fairgrounds is just awesome for me personally.
I don't know if there's anything better. This, honestly, is my best day at work I think I've ever had.
Yeah, it's been great. I tell you what, shaking out this truck, it's cool, it's fast, it's loud, it sounds great, especially down that front stretch.
Yeah, I think we checked all the boxes we tried to hit with this truck and then some.
Yeah. With that said, I've got one more spot you might like.
Oh.
Might like. Let's go check it out.
Let's do it. Well, hey guys, as you can see, Mike dragged me to another spot, and I'm gonna have to say this place is pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Where the hell we at, Mike?
So we're at Music City Raceway. It's a local 8th mile track just north of Nashville, and it's actually my hometown track. I've spent a lot of time here. 2005 high school class track champion, actually.
Uh-oh, looks like I got my work cut out for me.
Yeah. So, you know, we built this truck to be pretty much everything, a street truck, a round track, drag strip. So now we gotta test it out. We got Summit Racing sent us some drag radials, some smaller wheels, so we get all that traction going down the track.
Well, what do you say we get this thing on the track and go take it for a rip?
Let's go rip it.
All right. All right.
Woo, doggy. All right, here we go, folks. The maiden voyage on our 632 SS. Like, I'm just gonna Just gonna get it off the starting line, let at it, but just want to get it rolling. I don't want to really dump the clutch. Just get it rolling initially and then let her eat. So out here at Music City Raceway, man, I've made tons of runs down this track. Let's make another one. All right, here we go. A little bit of a burnout. Let it rip. Wow, that thing is all over the place. All over the place. Woo! First run in the books. We brought it back to the pits. Still running. Now let's see what our numbers say. 810.
What'd you think? It sounded good.
Oh man, this thing is a riot.
Yeah,
it's
it
got
looks like
plenty of power. It's moving around, pedaling it a little bit, trying to keep it straight, and big tires on the front. It just wants to walk on
Well, I
yourself.
think I'm about ready. First time down a drag strip, so
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes. But
yeah,
I'm
just
excited.
ease it offline and then let her rip.
Let's do it.
All right, good luck.
All right, well, here we go. First time on a drag strip. I'm excited, a little nervous. Awesome. I definitely should have hit third, but I did not. Well, 837. All right. Not hitting third. I'm all right with that.
After a few conservative runs in the 8s, I knew this truck had more in it. And as the night was winding down and Anthony's confidence was going up, it was time to let her rip. Broke the 7th. Anthony laying it to him. That's only like his third pass ever, but did great.
There we go. Found third on my third pass. I'm getting the drag car after this. Woo! 751, buddy.
All right, good job. Man,
Yeah.
I tell you what.
I think this just changed my life. I appreciate you bringing me out here to Music City Raceway because I'm getting a drag truck when I get home. I'm done with these show trucks. That's where it's at.
I tell you what, for 6 months, we've been working on this thing, putting in all the hard work, transforming it. Thanks to Pat and Frankie for that 632 Big Block.
That thing is nasty.
That thing's nasty.
Yeah.
You know, quick performance with that rear end.
Yep.
It's super fun. We tried to give you everything with this. We're on the street, on the round track, and even ripping it down the drag strip.
Rolling gears with that American powertrain 6-speed behind it. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, I'm in love with this thing.
Big thanks to Summit Racing. They really hooked us up on this, and I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah. I want to see what we have coming next. Hopefully it's another drag truck because I think
You're hooked?
I'm hooked.
You're hooked.
That's it. That's
I tell
it
you,
for me.
yeah. That's all we got for you today. Tune in next time on Music City Trucks.
We'll see you then.